Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I recorded my last video, but looking forward to today's video where I'm going to do a reaction on one of my favourite YouTube channels called Adventures and Naps. It features Alanna, who is a Canadian who has moved to the UK. She now lives in England in a county called Kent. And she has a lot of interesting observations about the British and the British way of life. And being a Canadian, she has some unique insights. So being British, I figured, let's watch the video. And my first reaction, first time seeing it. And the video is titled, You Know You're British When?
You know you're British when? As told by a foreigner. Hi everyone, it's me. As a foreigner living in the UK, I have compiled a comprehensive list to figure out if you are in fact British. All British people watching, hi, how's it going? Make sure to leave a comment down below. Do you agree with my assessment? But without further ado, let's go. Number 1, someone enters your home and you have to ask, would you like a cuppa? Now we're not just talking about friends, and we're not just talking about family. We're talking about anyone who enters your home, whether it is a plumber or electrician, or even perhaps your landlord, you have to ask, would you like a cuppa? And
Yes, that 100% true. I'm not going to lie. That is 100% truth. It's the same in my household, or even my mum's the same. Whenever anyone comes round, she automatically straight away would be like, the first thing out of her mouth, well, the introductions aside, doesn't matter if it's a workman, doesn't matter who it is, the first thing out of her mouth is, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a drink? What would you like? Would you like any, a snack or something like that? And it's the same with meal times as well, whether it's lunch or dinner, whichever's coming closer, straight away it's a, yes, would you like a meal? Would you like something to eat? 100% that is factual.
And what I absolutely love is that while there are loads of British people who don't like tea, don't drink tea, I think a high percentage of them actually have tea bags in their home for this sole purpose. Number 2, doesn't.
I'm sorry, I saw that. It's so funny. Yeah, 100% true, because I don't drink tea or coffee at all. And so, but in the cupboard, 100%. Just in case someone comes round, that's the only reason I have tea and coffee. I don't even know how to make coffee, and this would absolutely freak out Americans, but I only have instant coffee, that's it. I have nothing else. I would not know how to brew coffee, make coffee, anything like that. I know nothing about it. Literally just enough kind of, refreshment, if you like, for someone's coming in. That's it, nothing else.
Thank the bus driver when they get off the bus. So you make a point to thank the driver just a little bit louder than normal. Now, I saw this a lot when I used to take the bus to and from work. I took 2 buses. 2 buses in the morning, 2 buses at night. I saw this a lot. If someone didn't thank the driver for whatever reason, the next person or the next queue of people always thanked the driver more or more loudly just to prove a point. And I just love it. To be honest, I saw a lot of things on the bus. So many things. The bus is like the Wild West some nights.
That wouldn't shock me, to be honest. I mean, I haven't taken a bus in years, but definitely, I think saying thank you is just a civil thing. You just say thank you to people, the same as a taxi driver, same as a, bus driver. I guess... I don't know if I always did it as a kid, certainly not when I was younger, when I took the buses to and from school. I don't remember always saying thank you, but, I didn't know if it's a British thing or not, but I'm glad it is, because it's always good to say thank you, I feel. Always good.
Some nights when I was coming home from work, and perhaps maybe it was a little bit later in the evening because something came up or whatever. Wow. A lot of stories on the bus. Number 3, you know you're British when you use "you all right" as a greeting and "cheers" as a thank you. Now, as a foreigner who has lived here almost 7 years, I have started to say cheers in a thank you sort of way. So like, say somebody is walking ahead of you and they hold the door open for you at some building. And you say cheers as like, thank you, thanks, ta. I don't say ta because that sounds weird, but I do say cheers. However, I cannot bring myself to say "you all right." It sounds so stupid when I say it. It does not feel natural, and maybe it will after, 10 years of living here, but currently, I can't.
That's 100% true. Yeah, what she's just said. I agree with her on the cheers thing. There are some people I know that we should say tar, but say thank you. I mean, and cheers does mean thank you. You still would, for example, if you have a toast, you would still celebrate and go cheers, you know, and sort of you'd still clank your glass. But it generally means thank you. Yeah, definitely. As for, I know what she's saying about. So, all right is like a greeting. It means hello. So you say, if you see someone in the street, say, all right. And it can be confusing. And I found it confusing even when I was younger too. Because I'd hear people saying it and I'm like, are they asking me if I'm all right? Or are they saying a greeting, you know, as in like, hello? But it is literally just, they're not asking you how you are. It is literally a way of saying hello. So, for example, it's not you all right. It's more all right. So, for example, you say, all right, mate, all right. It's almost like A-W-R-I-T-E. I know that sounds a silly spelling, but yeah, that's the easiest way to think of it. You go, all right, mate, how you doing? Well, if someone says to you, all right, mate, how you doing? It doesn't mean hello, how are you? It just means hi. It's a way of just quickly saying hi, you know, moving on to the next thing. You know, that's it. That's all it means.
I just can't do it. Number 4, somebody cuts the queue. Yes, somebody jumps the queue, and you are filled with an unbelievable, undescribable rage. But rather than say anything to that person, you decide to tut at the back of their head. Now, no nation of people can do tutting better than the Brits. I have seen it in person. It is devastating. And what I also love is, I mean, I've been in situations where someone's cut the queue, someone's jumped the queue, whatever. I've been in that situation. It does happen, although it is rare. One of the things that I do love is when we are, you know, in the queue and that happens, someone cuts in and nobody in the queue is going to confront them. There are some Brits who will do it, but I think they're few and far between. So we're all in the queue and you kind of like look to each other and you're like, can you believe this? Like, you're kind of like, the sheer cheek of that guy. So it's kind of like this camaraderie in the queue that I just love. We're all kind of like looking at each other. You might not even say anything, but it's just like, everybody knows what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's a cardinal sin. I'm not going to lie. Cutting the queue, cutting in front, going to the front. You know, even if you have a group of friends at the front. Let's say, for example, I'm going to the cinema or the movie theatre. If I go to the front of the queue, let's say I've had friends that have even been at the front of the queue. I've nipped off to the restroom, toilet, come back, and I'm going to the front of the queue. I feel so guilty because I'm looking, you know, I'm kind of looking back at the rest of the queue and I feel so bad, so guilty. And you can bet occasionally there will be some people will tut, like she said, but certainly in 2024, you can bet that a lot of people will say something. I know someone in particular who would 100% say something, and he's even told me of tales where, you know, he's been a line in the queue in the airport and somebody's pushed in and he is actually, you know, really gone like, no, you get to the back of the queue or else kind of thing. So it is 100% pretty much a cardinal sin in the UK to cut a queue. Definitely 100% right on that one.
Number 5, somebody drops a glass at the pub and you can't help but shout, "Way!" Maybe you even clap. Maybe you do both. And if you go to the pub enough, it is bound to happen. I have seen it so many times. And honestly, I suffer from secondhand embarrassment. So I always feel bad when it happens. But, you know, you can't avoid it.
Yeah, it happens every single time, every single pub. If people drop a plate or they drop glasses, everyone's like, "Way!" I hate it. I cringe like every time it happens.
People are going to shout. Number 6, you know you're British when someone asks you how you are doing and you say, "I can't complain," even though your world is falling apart. Now, I think this part of British culture comes from like the stiff upper lip era, that some Brits do not want to complain about their own problems or perhaps open up. I mean, we could psychoanalyze this for a long time, but it is something I have seen happen where Brits just don't want to complain. So even if, you know, their house is burning down behind them and someone says, "Are you all right?" and they say, "I can't complain." Number 7,
I think that's not necessarily a repression as much as it is courteous, because I guess I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how well you know someone. Sometimes, I mean, I would just say everything that's bothering me, I guess. But sometimes it's kind of like an awareness, a self-awareness that we feel sometimes in British culture, that it's almost like, yes, we may have a problem, but it's like the other person is just quickly asking you how you are. They don't necessarily want to hear your life story or your life problems sometimes. So I guess, and I could be wrong on this, I mean, other people, other Brits, like she said, in my comments even, let me know if you feel this way as well. But sometimes there's almost like a casual on the surface conversation where it's more about place and time to burden people. You just feel like, no, I shouldn't do that. It's not polite, or you shouldn't really do that as much as it's not about repression either. It's more about politeness, I guess, where you just feel like it's like lip service, isn't it? Someone says, "Oh, hello, how are you? Are you okay?" And sometimes I could be wrong, but I feel like they're not really there. It's just politeness. They're just asking if you're okay on the surface. They're not necessarily asking you, please tell me all of your problems in one go so we can sit and have a therapy session. It's kind of like a quick hello, how are you? It's nothing nothing too serious. It's a more service thing.
Tea can solve most problems. Just got dumped? Have a cup of tea. Just had a horrible day at work? Have a cup of tea. Just fallen out a 4-story building and broken both your legs? Have a cup of tea. Number 8, if you are stumped at what to say, or you're in like an awkward pause with someone and there's like this, that awkward silence, talk about the weather. I have used this so many times, okay? I am willing to admit that. I use this all the time. Social interactions are not my forte. Surprise. And when I find myself in an awkward situation and I don't know what to say, or I'm just like trying to kill time until someone can rescue me from a conversation, just talk about the weather. It could be about the rain. It could be about the possibility of upcoming rain. It doesn't matter. Now,
yeah, that's true. And and funnily enough, why is it a British thing? Because it is considered a British thing, I think. I don't know, is it a world thing? Let me know in the comments. And I think the reason is perhaps because the weather here is so changeable. Where we are in the United Kingdom, we've got the English Channel, obviously. We've got there's like jet stream coming in from the Atlantic. So effectively, we've got a jet stream coming in from the Atlantic. We've got a rising heat coming in from Europe, and then effectively from above, we've got. Did you see that? I've cut the screen off slightly. Yes, so the weather here is so changeable, effectively, because you've got three different weather systems all vying for supremacy. So it can be snowing one day, it can be bright sunshine and warm the next day, it can be really sunny the following day. So the weather is so changeable. So it's one subject that Brits can all go. It's a great go-to to break the ice, effectively, and that's why we do it.
Number 9, with the weather, it is okay to complain when it is too hot, but also to complain when it's too cold.
Yeah.
Now, I love this, and I do this now. What can I say? I'm so sorry. I will complain in the summertime that it is so hot, and then I will complain in the wintertime when it is so cold. It just kind of goes hand in hand with talking about the weather, and I can't stop. Number 10.
See, now, I'll tell you again, I don't think that's a culture thing. I think it is a geography thing. Because like I mentioned a second ago with the weather, because it is so changeable. In the UK, in England, we get a temperate climate. So it's generally speaking between -5 and +5 degrees Celsius in the winter, but generally above 0. And in the summertime, it's anywhere from, I would say, 17 degrees Celsius to about 21, 22 degrees Celsius during the day in the summer. But at the same time, we do have heat waves, so it can go to like 35, 36 degrees Celsius, or it can go even lower where it can go -10, -15. But not only that, it is very humid in the UK. Generally, the humidity is always above 50, 60%. At the moment, for example, the humidity has been 95% for the last few days, so it is a very wet, muggy heat. It may not be a high temperature, but it's always, it's always quite muggy. So in other words, you can perspire, you can sweat quite easily. And as a result, I think that's why the Brits complain about the weather quite a lot, because it doesn't seem like it, but -10 to +30 degrees is quite a huge temperature variation for the weather. And there are places in the world, of course, like Russia, for example, where the variation is a lot more. But at the same time, I think that's why it is that the Brits complain about the temperature so much and the weather so much, because the weather's very variable here, and it can change very quickly in a matter of days. You know, for example, it was 31 degrees here a couple of days ago, and then it's gone down to 17 a day or two later. So it's very, very variable, very, very changeable.
10, you will add in a kiss or an X to text messages to fellow Brits. Now, this was something that I actually picked up on when I first moved to the UK, because it's not something that we do in North America. Even if I was like texting with my mom, maybe you do like XOXO sometimes, or like you'd write it in a birthday card. But I was getting messages from like coworkers and bosses and like random people, and they'd have, you know, like the little X. And I was like, I don't know what this is, and I don't know what the protocol for me, like, how do you reciprocate that? Do you do one X? Do you do two X's? Do you do multiple X's? Like, what does each X mean? And
that's very interesting, actually, and I apologise for keep pausing this. I know I've had comments before on some of my videos where people have said, you know, you paused it a bit too much, and I apologise for that. It's just to interject my point of view very, very quickly. Yeah, that's thrown me. Now, I don't put X's on any messages, on any kind of text messages, any kind of messages to anyone. In my experience, and as I say, I could be wrong, let me know in the comments, I found generally my female friends, for example, have put X's on messages to me, text messages on the phone and whatnot. I generally haven't done it back to them unless I've been in a relationship before where my partner has said to me, why haven't you put X's, why haven't you put kisses in the text message, in our text messages? And I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know to do that. And she was very much like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I've done it in that situation, but I don't do it. I don't like doing it. And I agree. I don't know what the protocol is. I've had another partner where she said, you know, it was like 1X for this, 2X's for that, 3X's for that. And I found it really confusing. But none of my male friends have ever done that to me. Obviously, obviously I could be drawing on my own experience a bit too much. Perhaps that's not the case. Let me know in the comments, but that certainly is how I've seen it. So
British quirk has actually become quite natural to me now, which is weird. I picked up on it a little while back when I was messaging one of my friends, and we both used, you know, an X in the messages, and I just thought, oh, maybe I'm British now. Number 11, you know you're British when you are out with friends or family or colleagues or whatever. You're out to dinner and you're kind of complaining about your meal a little bit. But when the waiter comes over and asks, is everything all right? You say
yes.
It's lovely, thanks. I think this is part of like British culture where you don't want to be a bother. You know, you don't want confrontation, but you also don't want to be a bother. And honestly, I totally get it. I do the same thing. And of course, not all Brits are like this. There is a small percentage of the population, I would say, that would be the confronters. And perhaps you are a confronter. If someone jumps the queue, you're going to tell them off. If you're having a bad meal, you're going to tell them off. Like, you're going to go for that confrontation. But I think typically it's just not done. And as someone who is socially anxious outside of their house, I totally get it. Number 12, your sense of humor may be categorized as blunt, dark, and or sarcastic. Now, I love the British sense of humor. I just think it's wonderful and I love it. And it's actually very similar to a Canadian sense of humor. Of course, we have a lot of shared history between you and I, so our sense of humor is quite similar, but I do find that the British version is just like a couple of notches more extreme. And I think if you are coming to the UK from a country that has a very different sense of humor, perhaps one that doesn't utilize really dark humor or sarcastic humor, I think it would be quite jarring. 13, when you get on transportation, you avoid sitting next to someone unless you have no other option. Now, I love this part of British culture and I really appreciate it, especially when I was commuting on the bus. You see a lot of crazy stuff on the bus, but one of the things that I loved was this unwritten rule that people would sit somewhere else as long as there's an open seat. Like, they won't sit beside you unless there's no other option. But there are few things worse. There are a few things worse than being on the bus late at night, trying to just get home. I'm sat against the window. The bus is nearly empty. And that man comes and sits down beside you. And you just think, oh God, here we go. You know you're British when number 14. Now, this I also love. And again, another unwritten rule. When you have to sit beside somebody, say you are at the window and someone comes and sits beside you in the aisle because it's a packed bus or train or whatever, the unwritten rule is that you will start to like wrestle with your stuff and start to like gather your stuff up to signal to the person beside you that you need to get out. I love it as an anxious person. Yes, please. So there's been so many times when I'm on the train going someplace, on the bus, coming home from work, whatever. I'm stuck in the window seat. My stop's coming up. So I start to kind of like, you know, fiddle with my bag or my coat or whatever. And the British person beside me instinctively knows that my stop is coming up, and I want to get out. I just love it. Number 15, you go.
It's a way of doing it without bothering anyone, isn't it? I used to do that when I was on the bus. You kind of gather your stuff together, and you're just like, it's the same with on a plane, I guess, where you just kind of stand up, and you don't want to have to say, excuse me, you know, I'm getting up. So you just kind of like, yeah, you know, you gather your stuff, and it's like, they like, yeah, and they notice and they let you out. It's kind of cool.
Go on holiday, perhaps to Spain, and you get so sunburned you wish you had died. Now there is that like stereotype meme, how you can tell when someone is British at like an all-inclusive resort or whatever, and it's the people who are the most burnt. If that is you, I'm so sorry for laughing. Sunburns are no laughing matter.
No, it's just absolutely true. It is a well-known British thing. It's like, because we live in such a cold country, you see, or that's not true. Because we live in such a country that has so much cloud cover that it's not sunny as often. As soon as the sun's out, you know, like, and it reminds me of that film, what was it called? 22 Jump Street. Was it Sun's Out, Guns Out? You know, it's one of those things where if it's even 18 degrees and the sun's out, that's it. Everyone's, you know, all the men, well, especially all the workers or, you know, men who don't have a body shaped like mine, the top comes straight off. You know, they're in the sun. You don't have any suntan cream with you because, you know, let's face it, it's a British day. It's not sunny very often. You wouldn't even think to take your suntan cream with you. You sit out in the sun and then you come red raw as a beetroot. You get completely sunburned. And that is 100% true about British people I've known. You know, they're lobsters. And especially when they go on holiday to Spain, they all come back like absolutely burnt lobsters.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But it is pretty funny.
Nah, that's true.
Now, as someone from Southern Ontario,
it is funny.
We actually get a lot of sun. People don't really think about that when they think about Canada or maybe Ontario. But yeah, we get a lot of sun. My skin is a little bit different from a typical white British person. I'm a bit more olivey, actually, and it takes a lot more for me to burn. So it is quite funny going on holiday if you are around British people. And I always feel like I'm the one who's like, hey, have you put sunscreen on? Because it's almost like they don't realize what's going to happen, even though it happens every time we're out in the sun. You're going to burn. It's going to happen. Number 16, True. The best part about working in an office is when it's someone's birthday and they bring in cake. Now, this was something that I hadn't experienced in Canada. Typically, in like jobs that I've had in Ontario, when it's someone's birthday and we as like an office know it's their birthday, we would typically bring in treats, or maybe we would do like a special Timmy's run and we get them like extra Timbits or something
Tim Hortons,
fun.
I suppose she means.
Something in. Here in the UK, I found when I was working in an office at a college, when it was someone's birthday, they would bring in a cake for everybody.
Yeah, that's a weird tradition. I never understood that. Well, obviously when I first worked in an office. Yeah, if it's your birthday, you have to bring in the cakes for everyone. And at first, I thought that was a bit weird, but it's actually fairer when you think about it, because what that means is that, let's say you're an office of 10 people, it means that 9 times out of the 10, you know, you're going to be bought stuff for free. Back when I worked in an office, what we would do is if it was somebody's birthday, we would all go round to the local bakery. We'd buy cream cakes and a selection of donuts or whatever. Like someone would go maybe to Krispy Kremes or whatever. And they would bring a whole selection for the whole office. And you'd bring like these huge, big things, you know, massive boxes for the whole entire office if it was your birthday. Yeah, it was absolutely great. And I'm glad to see that it's still going as a tradition even now.
And if you are in a big enough office, it feels like it is always someone's birthday. Number 17,
that's
you
true.
know you're British when you judge people by the color of their tea. If the tea is too light, if it's too milky, you're gonna get tutted at. Now I am slowly getting into tea more and more.
This is new to me.
It seems like every winter I get a little bit closer to being a tea person. Personally, I want a little bit of milk, not too much, and no sugar. And Yorkshire if you have it. And literally any biscuits. I will not judge a type of biscuit. Literally any biscuit. Although saying that, no rich tea, please. Those are not biscuits. Number 18.
Rich tea are so biscuits. I'm sorry. Rich tea are so biscuits. Rich tea is so a thing. They are so biscuits 100%. I'm sorry. Completely right. That's it. Video's over. That's it.
Wave when another car lets you through. So here in the UK, as a North American, driving here in the UK is so much harder. Any foreigners watching, I'm so sorry to tell you this. The roads in the US and Canada are a piece of cake compared to the roads here, and you're just gonna have to get used to it.
You think it's bad here, try going to Germany. I'm not saying it's like this roundabout here that's clearly insane, but in Germany there are a lot more rules and regulations regarding who gives priority and who has what right of way and things. You know, it's more difficult, whereas here, common courtesy on the roads, we're seeing it less and less, and it's a real huge bugbear I have. But essentially there are, and the highway code, there are priorities for most situations. You go when you're supposed to go, and you wait when you're supposed to wait. And if you are, if someone is waiting for you, it is customary for you to, raise your hand as if to say thank you, and the other person is reciprocates and then holds up their hand and says you're welcome. If you don't do that, certainly people like me get quite angry because, you know, especially in 2024, politeness and common decency are just, they should be a thing. They should be taught in schools these days, I swear, because it's happening less and less. And it's really disappointing to see, I have to say. But yeah, you have to, for example, if the obstacle's on your side of the road and the road is narrow and there's not enough room for two cars to pass successfully, if the obstacle's on your side of the road, you have to stop and give way to the other person until they have passed before you can continue. And generally, as I say, you do the thank you and the you're welcome.
But there's so many instances where a road is technically two-way traffic, but it is only ever wide enough for one car at a time. And I had this situation come up so much when I was driving. I used to have a car, rest in peace. I sold it to get crushed into a cube, but there's so many instances where we're like facing each other. There's only room for one, so they wave, like they maybe they flash their lights
wave you on
to let you go through first, and you wave to thank them. And if you don't wave to thank them, you're a horrible human being. But with the way the roads are here, especially down here in Kent, maybe your part of the country is a bit different. Here in Kent, I feel like there were so many waves. There were so many waves because there were so many narrow roads. Now, as a foreigner living in the UK, what did you guys think about my assessment of British people? Let me know in the comments.
I thought bang on. I thought very good assessment, I felt. As to the last one, I find personally, for my work, I've driven all over England and not so much Scotland, and a bit of Wales. And in my experience, this is just me, I'm a southerner, so I was born in the south of England. I find the further north you go, the politer people are, the more they will wave, the more they will give, priority, they'll thank you more. And down south, it's worse. Generally speaking, I'm not saying it's worse all the time. It's not, but generally speaking, I think that's the trend that I've personally noticed over the years. As I say, I've only been driving since 2002, and it's been getting a lot worse, where people don't give way more. Certainly, where I live, people often don't give way and they just charge straight through. Maybe it's because they didn't know. Maybe it's because they're in a hurry. Maybe it's because they just don't care. I don't know what it is. But anyway, back to Alanna then. So yes, as I say, wonderful, wonderful YouTuber. She's the reason I started or tried YouTube. I owe what I'm doing now to Alanna. So I find, her channel's wonderful. Please go and stop by. I'll leave a link in the description. As I say, she's a very cool person. I love watching her observations. I probably will react to her channel more in the future because as a British person, I find it very interesting to find out what people think of British people. Anyway, that's me done. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe. And thank you for your time and watching my channel. And hopefully we'll do some more videos in the future. Thank you very much.